Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Dimitri Johnson, and you're listening to MMA Latest News.com.
It's time to roll, baby.
Thumbnail still up. But anyway, good evening, guys. Welcome back to MMA Latest. We're here for the UFC 253 recap. I'm here with Jay. Fantastic weekend of fights. We'll be covering, of course, Warriors The Trilogy, which ended and concluded last night. But first of all, I got my prediction right last night. Not quite the round. You said that Costa would KO Israel Adesanya, the quote-unquote skinny clown that he's been titled recently by MMA Twitter. But he got the job done, and how fantastic did he look?
Yeah, I kind of ate my words a little bit last night.
No.
I said Costa would knock him out in the second round. I did say this to you last night in the live preview. I said if the fight was to end in the first two rounds and I didn't happen to see it, I would believe that Costa would be the one to finish the fight early. Well, reality is I didn't see it. I fell asleep. And I woke up this morning seeing that it ended in the second round, but it was Adesanya who knocked him out. So, I ate my words. But going off the fight, I mean, Israel just looked untouchable. He really did. I mean, Costa got off some half-decent leg kicks here and there. Not a lot in comparison to what Izzy threw at him. But it was a surprising one because everyone kind of expects Costa to come forward and be the pressure fighter, throw heavy volume as well. And I do believe that he was he was patient. I think he was trying to ease his way through the fight and then give it a go and finish strong, like judging off what I've seen. But Izzy wasn't waiting around for that. He was there to, get paid quick, and he done that unbelievable knockout. So, yeah, I ate my words. I don't think I'll be going against Adesanya anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I actually fell asleep. I fell asleep just after Kai France. It's the pain of being a fan over in the UK and Ireland, of course. It's devastating when you're up for those 6, 7 a.m.s in the morning. And, I crashed out. I then watched, Cage Warriors in the day and then UFC at night. So I woke up just in time, actually, just as the referee called it quits. So, when you're dozing off and you're half in, half sleeping and half awake, I was just watching it, And, as you mentioned there, I think all of us, in a betting sense, we was like, yeah, it would be Israel Adesanya to probably pick him off over 5 rounds rather than Adesanya's going to go out there and knock him out. And we'd expect Costa, to not dominate those 30 rounds, but if he was going to get the win, it'd be finished with him in those 30 rounds. But, Adesanya came out and delivered, and we was talking a little bit off the air. We was talking, comparing it to the Conor McGregor, not the curse, but the fact that everyone he faced, he was going to be the next person to beat Conor McGregor. And now we're here at the same point. Everyone is going to beat Israel Adesanya. Everyone's going to be the next guy to dethrone him. And I felt like last night that Adesanya, he put on the performance similar, not maybe as impressive as Conor McGregor did against any other. It's those, they're at the same points in their careers at that timeline.
Yeah, we kind of spoke about it last night. I don't know if we spoke about it on the live or beforehand, but it is kind of similar. Like there's this person now. Well, this is fighter who you kind of tend to, you pick and choose how you feel about them. And for me, Adesanya kind of got that. A lot of people thought, right, okay, well, if you just look at his frame, you get a Yoel Romero, and he's going to run through him, or you get a Paulo Costa, and he's just going to run through him because look at the size difference. But we've watched this sport long enough to know that size doesn't matter half the time. Look at the heavyweights. You can have a fighter at 265 pounds get beat by a guy who weighs 240. Size doesn't always mean much in this sport. So, but yeah, I do feel like that's the thing. Like a lot of people kind of said, right, well, he'll lose the next one because it's only going to get deeper and deeper. Like, I see Reese here now. What happened to Costa knocking out Izzy? Look, it happens. But this is coming from the person who said Felicia Spencer was going to choke out Amanda Nunes. So I'm countering that.
Yes.
But yeah,
he's raising the Reese.
I know he's all back. But now personally, I think that was the case. He had that reputation of being that fighter who's just a hype machine. Like you said, Conor McGregor was the exact same. Okay, fair enough. What are you going to do against an elite level striker? Okay, and then what are you going to do against a black belt in jiu-jitsu, a wrestler, so on and so forth. So it's got to the point where many people stopped doubting Conor because he was just producing the goods time and time again. And Adesanya's doing the exact same thing. So, Yeah, he was definitely impressive, and I think his reign will continue as long as he wants it to. As long as he stays sharp and stays committed, he looks like an Anderson Silva 2.0, in my opinion.
Well, we was mentioning, before, he loves his video games, don't he, Adesanya? He's almost playing this as a video game. Obviously, his fight against Anderson Silva was his dream matchup in terms of the skill sets. Obviously, it wasn't the Anderson Silva they probably would have liked to have fought. He would have, much preferred probably the Prime in terms of his mental stylistically. Those two would match up very well. And it's almost interesting. It made me think, watching the fight, how would a Prime Anderson Silva do now in these days? Because they do have similar tendencies. They have quite similar builds, and the movement of Adesanya, he's very flexible. And we saw it in the fight today. A couple of the move, is moving out strikes from Costa. It's almost a Silva 2.0.
Yeah, and it's brilliant to see that. And it was great that we kind of got to see them two mix it up as well. Again, another thing that we touched on last night, he fought Silva, but Silva wasn't in his prime. But you could still have that argument of, right, well, take away the whole, what if, what if we got to see Adesanya against Anderson Silva? Well, we did get to see it. And, right, okay, Silva wasn't in his prime, but we got to see the young bull basically come up and dethrone this guy who's been the king of the sport for years in Anderson Silva. Obviously, he wasn't the champion at the time, but still, Silva had so much respect for Adesanya to go in and do a job on him, and now kind of take that mantle and be kind of dubbed the Anderson Silva 2.0. You have to just look at it last night, and it was very kind of reminiscent of what a prime Anderson Silva done. There was majority of fighters Anderson Silva beat were in either better shape than him, or ripped to shreds, or bigger, whatever. But it didn't matter. He had already won that fight, and Izzy has that. I think he has that in abundance, actually.
Yeah, I think we saw that throughout the week, really, isn't it? Obviously, we was talking about the build-up that maybe one of each other had probably got under the skin of the other one, and we've seen. I think the McGregor comparisons are there because we've seen how many times McGregor in a press week, he taunts the opponent, he goes him into already losing, and sometimes there's a couple points where you're going, oh, is actually McGregor the guy under the skin here, as his opponent, almost dug a little bit too far. But I think Adesanya is probably he's a blend of McGregor of the new age, and he's a blend of that Anderson Silva in terms of the indie cage, and he's making himself an absolute superstar. Last night I did say it was almost David Goliath in terms of the visuals of the two fighters, but I think that win last night is one of his biggest of the career, and it's the one that's going to propel him most, because we're going to go back and go, especially if Costa bounced back. Imagine he goes on a huge tear up, if he bounces back, because he's still very young himself. I think he's only 29. But for this, Adesanya has just made himself the superstar.
Well, yeah, he has. Again, we kind of said for Costa, in order to become a star, beating Adesanya was vital for him. But it
you froze there. Go ahead.
Everything all good with the camera there?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah. It was equally important for Adesanya to be Costa getting that name on his record, but Costa's only young into his career. He'll bounce back. He'll have time. He's still a killer in that division. There's no two ways about it. If you write him off because he got beat by the champ, you're very foolish. Imagine matchups with him and Cannonier, Darren Till, Jack Manson. There's so many guys there that you can match him up with and get him back to that title shot. Whether Adesanya will be the champ by then, who knows? But I still believe he's a player in the division. There's so many players in the division. I still think Yoel Romero's a player in the division. I just love him. I don't care if he loses 10 fights in a row. Give him a title shot. That division's stacked with killers at the minute, so it's good. It's good, and Adesanya being at the top of that, it's brilliant to see.
Yeah, definitely. Even as a fan of him, it's interesting to see how far he can go. There's still a little bit of I saw the stat last night. He's on a 9-fight win streak, and the record is Anderson Silva at 13 in terms of active win streaks. So it'll be interesting if he does get to those 10, 11, 12s. Could he eclipse, when the student becomes the master? Because I do think that Anderson Silva fight, it was perfect as well, because obviously Whittaker and Gastelum were supposed to fight on that night. They had to drop out, and that became the main event. It was a 3-round main event, which was perfect for them. And it was the passing of the guard. It was the old school going to the new school. And Adesanya has taken that, and he's taken the pressure of every fight he's come into perfectly. And to say, look at the frames of Gastelum, Whittaker, Romero, and Paulo Costa. They're all very stocky guys. They're not someone who's similar to him. It's not like he's been picked up to someone who looks like a wonder boy. They've all been very stocky guys, albeit Gastelum and Whittaker have come up from that welterweight division, so they probably have a bit more a bit less power and a little bit less weight to lose than the likes of Costa and Romero. But Adesanya's done everything perfectly, and there's a reason why he's still undefeated. But I do question, the likes of Darren Till coming up, the Jared Cannonier called out. It's going to be an interesting fight. It could go the same way as the Paulo Costa fight did, but Cannonier is a dark horse in that race, and Jack Hermansson too. He's someone he loves to throw a spanner in the works.
Yeah, and the way I see it, there's for Adesanya to originally come out right when he won the title, he said, "I want Yoel Romero. That's supposedly my kryptonite. I want that fight." Personally, at the time, and I know it sounds like I just keep picking against Adesanya, I don't, because I clearly see his ability, his talent. I think he's amazing. But if I look at that fight beforehand, and I think anybody does, if you imagine Yoel Romero taking him down, you'd kind of assume he has the ability to keep him down and win that fight. Romero just doesn't want to use his wrestling. But fine, he gets past him. And then he fights Paulo Costa, who just went to war with Yoel Romero. You think that's going to be another one where it's is it just enough to get, can he get through? I don't know. And he did. He not only got through it, he put a beating on him last night, which is ridiculous. And then again, now he wants Jared Cannonier. So I love that about him, that he wants all these killers, because he knows that's what makes his legacy. He's not going to get that by beating average fighters, top 15 fighters. He's going to get that by beating the very best.
Definitely. I think it's also interesting the back and forth he's been having with Darren Till. I think today he put a tweet out being like, "Raw Dog's now mine," because of what he did against Paulo Costa, the little hump that he did at the end in his celebration. A lot of people missed that until the replay, but he humped him on the way up after the finish, which a lot of people felt was a little unclassy of him. But I think it was him showing off this what he does. But at the same time, he hasn't really called out Jack Hermansson, but the fact that he's called out, he's gone back and forth with the Darren Tills. He's gone back and, called for Jared Cannonier should he get past Robert Whittaker. He wants those fights, and he's clearly someone who gets excited by the fights. I think Conor's done it as well. He pretty much called out the whole featherweight division, didn't he, at one point?
Well, yeah, before he was the champion, he was going for everybody.
Yeah.
I remember there was a time when he was calling out Ala Quinte, even though McGregor was still fighting at 145, and Ala Quinte had just come off the Ultimate Fighter, and he was a finalist. He wanted that, and then he wanted Diego Sanchez, who we spoke about last night. He wanted everybody to be fair, but ultimately he wanted the title. It's kind of the same thing with Adesanya, only he's the champ now. Do you know what I mean? But I see that the narrative between it, they're very much the same in a sense. That it's like they're cut from the same cloth. I find with them too. It's brilliant because it's going to make him a star. If he gets that media run like the way McGregor did, it's going to skyrocket him. The only thing with last night, like you're talking about the little hump and stuff and the cum shot as coach, that's not really my thing. I don't know. That's not for me, but whatever. I can have an opinion on that, but it's not going to change how I think about him as a fighter. So I'll leave him to them antics. So I'm not getting too invested in them.
Yeah. It's crazy how, we've got Gamebred planking against a stiff board, Ben Askren, and everyone goes, "Oh, he's such a BMF, he's such a gangster for doing that." And then we've got a lot of people, that come out and say what Colby Covington doing is fine, but Israel does that, and everyone goes, "What are you doing? You're not meant to be doing that. Just fight."
There's a difference. There is a difference though in a lot of that. Gamebred, when he done it, you think of all that shit talk that went on between him and Ben Askren, and then it was over in 4 seconds, right? And that's essentially a big fuck you to him, isn't it? Just put you on that celebration, fine. Then Colby Covington goes on record of just saying some racist shit, which I don't agree with at all. Don't condone. And then the difference with Colby that pisses me off is there's a video online of him being completely out of character, and he comes across as like one of the nicest people you could hear. That's what kind of like interested me more about him. And I got the shtick down. I knew it was a shtick, but I got it, and I didn't have a problem. But then he does stuff like that, and you're like, no, like there has to be boundaries. And Dana says, well, we let them have the freedom of speech. There has to be a cut-off point, but whatever about that. But now you come to Adesanya, and he's gesturing that he's all over people. Like, to me, it's like, nah, mate. Like, I'm just not with that. Like,
it's crazy, isn't it? Because obviously, you know, they say all's fair in love and war, and obviously they had the build-up. You know, Costa threw him the white belt, you know, and you know, showed off his black belt in jiu-jitsu. And then Adesanya beats him down and finishes like that. You know, it almost asserts dominance on Paulo Costa and gets the final exclamation mark, and on his team as well. And he, you know, he obviously he danced next to him as Costa almost sat there. So it's almost like it is like a fuck you, you know, in terms of we've been here, we've done that. You said you was going to finish me, and I was too skinny. You said all that shit in the build up, and I've just knocked you out in 2 rounds, pretty much.
Yeah, but Izzy talks shit about everybody. So what's he getting salty for? You know what I mean? Like, so what we talk shit about? You do it to everybody. You know what I mean? Like, so what's the purpose for getting like all in your feelings? Do you know what I mean? Like, he's talked shit. Like, he's a good relationship, so it seems, with Darren Till, but he's talked shit on Darren Till. Like the build up between him and Robert Whittaker, like that got personal in terms of like, you know, the where they're from and stuff like that, and the rivalries there. And then with Yoel Romero, and now with Costa calling him a juice head and stuff. So like, what does he want? Like these fighters have respect for him, no problem, but they're gonna have an opinion because you have an opinion about everybody else. So I don't get why he's all in his feelings about it. But yeah, leave him to it, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's what makes me love him. He's goofy. He's very much, you know, you can imagine chilling with him with a beer. You know, you can imagine him. I was thinking about this earlier. You know, you could almost imagine him being a YouTuber or a Twitch streamer, being very successful because he's got a very likable personality. You know, he's always, you know, talking about games, talking about anime, which I'm not into the anime side. That's the bit that I dismantle myself from Adesanya. But he is someone who's very goofy, but he always goes in and does what he says he's going to do, which is the thing that's most impressive. I think, again, with the McGregor thing, McGregor always went in it and done what he said he was going to do. I think that's where it is most impressive. But we've moved on to the co-main event. Someone unanimously loved now. Jan Blachowicz became the light heavyweight champion, 37 years of age. You know, it's crazy. I was thinking, again, earlier, we've got he's won it at 37, John Jones won it at 23. The age parameters, you know, there's no... You know, we say Father Time catches up, but Jan Blachowicz looked phenomenal last night. And again, we said this is one Dominick Reyes probably is the more skillful fighter, but boy, Jan Blachowicz has that Polish power.
Yeah, he does. And I woke up this morning, I felt a bit like Chael Sonnen with the bad predictions. But there were 50-50 fights in my defence. Like you have to go one way or the other. I just thought Dominick Reyes would have had enough to outdo him, but that wasn't to be the case. I thought, you know, Jan just looked incredible. You know, it is the Polish power is a real thing. So it's here to stay. Look, that finish was nasty. You know, was it you or Reese last night who called it as a clean KO?
Probably. Oh, I actually don't remember. Maybe both. But I know I said
someone called it clean KO. I think it might have been Reese.
I think about Reese. Yeah,
I don't still watching you throw his little comment in, but yeah, I think it was just very, very much impressive. Now I can't wait to see what comes next. I believe Thiago Santos will be next for Jan. I think it's the rifle matchup, a rematch, and then we go from there. Unless Andy Johnson comes into the works anytime soon, but I believe he has to be on the testing for 4 months, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think he should be clear to fight in February, but I think that was the worst part of this performance in terms of Jan, because he called out John Jones, which we all know that probably isn't going to happen. I mean, John Jones put a little tweet out saying, "Oh, should I just go get my belt back?" But Jan, you know, he had the whole light heavyweight division to almost call out. But obviously, John Jones is the one that probably gets in the most sort of attention because everyone goes, "Oh, he just called out John Jones," and then all the media goes, "Jan Blachowicz calls out John Jones," and you know, it builds him a better profile rather than him going, "I'll call out Thiago Santos, etc." You know, if he called out Anthony Rumble Johnson, that would have been perfect because everyone goes, "Oh, hold on a minute, 2 heavy hitters." You know, we know Anthony Rumble Johnson's coming back. That probably would have been a better call out, but again, he's taken the smart decision there, I reckon.
Yeah, even with the call out of Jones, I can understand it because that was what he was looking for, essentially what he was penciled in for. But you know, Jones, he's kind of reminding me of Conor now as well at these pay-per-views. He's putting his opinion in when it's not needed. Just forget about it, mate. You're going to heavyweight. Go do your thing over there. You've kept that up. Leave it where it is. Do your own thing.
Yeah, obviously, I
can hear myself from your computer.
That's not good, but
yeah.
That isn't good, but we'll try and get that sorted ASAP. But I was going to say, I did make the claim that maybe Izzy goes up to light heavyweight, but right now, after seeing Jan, I was thinking that it's more as if Dominick Reyes wins, but for the moment, Izzy, wait until Jan's time passes. He's 37, but don't get his ideas. John Jones fight I would have been up for, but yeah, Jan's a scary guy, and it's going to be interesting. Thiago Santos has got a win over him, so if he beats Glover, that's a very excited matchup. But again, Jan does have a knockout chance, and that power. We've seen it. Rosenstruck versus Otherim. Otherim won 5 rounds and finished with a knockout loss on his record. The same thing could be said about Jan Blachowicz. You could see Thiago Santos go in there, dominate for 4 rounds, and Jan's still going to be in there with his right hand.
Yeah, it's kind of like Man United finishing 2-2 in the 95th minute and leaving with 3 points.
That is definitely
that's for another time. I see your point. I don't know. I keep losing my train of thought. Still hear the...
Yeah, I'm trying to work out why. Let's see. Hopefully, sorry, this is live.
Yeah,
we've got technical issues on the go. Right, go ahead.
But yeah, I think it's mainly like important for the division now, right? You look at who's there? Thiago Santos in the light heavyweight division, right?
Yeah, got the rankings
Thiago Santos. Who?
Glover.
Glover, yeah, right, you've Glover. Jan is the champ. Dominick Reyes still there. Andy Rumble to come in. There's the space for that division to grow again still. And it opens it all up now that we have a new champion. And when you were saying there about Izzy coming up and stuff, Izzy has a couple more fights where he can kind of clean out the division, and then he should start worrying about making moves. If Izzy beats a Darren Till, Jack Hermanson, and a Cannonier, I would say they would probably be the only logical 3 fights for him. I mean, he's already done Kelvin, Whitaker, Costa, and Romero.
Brunson.
Brunson, yeah, who's making a second run at it. So if I was him, I'd hold tight just a little bit before making a move. When he goes up, he can be an extra option in the light heavyweight division, but too soon, I think.
Definitely, it's interesting as well because obviously, we mentioned the McGregor comparisons. I wonder how long he can wait until he maybe looks at double champ status and he goes, I want a piece of that. Because obviously he wanted that with Jones. Obviously Jones isn't the champion anymore. I wonder if that still is something that interests him.
Well, what would be the point?
Yeah, you haven't got that super fight there.
Like, it's gonna have to be one goes up a division, the other one comes down from a division. For what? Like, the only way that would make sense is if it's like a vacant light heavyweight title, but I couldn't see that happening. You're not going to give it to a middleweight and a heavyweight coming down for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we've seen stranger things, but yeah,
we have. Like, don't get me wrong, we're going to see another stranger thing when we get to Pacquiao and McGregor, but we'll get to that in a while. But like, yeah, it is. There's always going to be something strange popping up with the UFC.
But on technical issues, this one's going well. Are we back in? We're back.
Yeah.
This is good, isn't it, guys? This is going well. It's almost going as some of the fights did at the weekend. But as you mentioned there, McGregor versus Pacquiao seems like it's on.
Oh man, like nuts. I don't know what to think. Like, to be perfectly honest, like I didn't know what to think when this whole Mayweather thing came around, and I was like, "There's no way it's gonna happen." Like, it's weird for me, right? Because I live like 10 minutes from Conor McGregor, right? So it's weird to think that someone from where I'm from can go and box Floyd Mayweather. I can't remember what age I was when Mayweather fought Ricky Hatton, who's my all-time favorite boxer. I remember being in like disbelief, and I was upset that Hatton lost, but then amazed by Mayweather. And then to see the career that he's gone on to have then still, like. And then Conor McGregor goes in and boxes him. Like, that's nuts to me. Like, that just shouldn't happen. But, of course, Conor went and done it. Then, Mayweather's biggest rival, essentially, was Pacquiao. He was the only one who could either outdo him, or who was the best pound for pound. And they went back and forth between the two of them until they fought. And I believe Mayweather picked the correct time to fight Pacquiao. And he got the nod over him. So now he's jumping in to fight Conor McGregor. Like, and also they're under the same management paradigm. So it's easy to happen, but it's still just so weird to me. It's still weird that a UFC champion or former UFC champion is going over to box like two of boxing's biggest legends. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that's just fucking nuts. Like, why? Like, how is that happening? Like, I don't get it, but it is. But it just shows it's come a long way. Like, UFC and MMA in particular has come a long way. The work that Dana White has done has propelled the sport. The stardom of Conor McGregor has exceeded all expectations of the sport. So it creates these opportunities, I guess, but it's madness to think of. And I don't even know who's gonna win that fight. Like, because you asked me years ago, Pacquiao boxes the brains off Conor McGregor. He just does not stop. He's like Nate Diaz on every type of steroid there is. Do you know what I mean? He's just a volume puncher for 12 rounds. Now, not so much, because obviously he's gotten on in years and he's had a knockout here and there and he's had a couple of losses, but even still, like, he's the boxer McGregor isn't. It's just fucking mad. Yeah. What do you think? What do you honestly think of it? Because I just can't get my head around it.
If you told me January that we're going to see McGregor boxing again, I would have gone, no. He's got 3 fights ahead of him. He's going to fight Gaethje in July. He's going to, probably get a title shot at the end of the year if he beats Gaethje. But obviously, with how this year's turned out, and we said this a little bit before. Yes, he's got 200 million in the bank, but I feel kind of, and we've seen it a lot this year. I feel kind of sorry that he seems to be, quite openly calling for a fight, and obviously the UFC can't provide that because obviously with the asset that he is, they don't want to, see him fight in an empty arena, which again makes sense. But the fact that he's gone out like for the likes of Anthony Pettis, the Anderson Silvas, and of course, this week or this weekend, he's leaked DMs with Dana White saying he wants that Diego Sanchez fight. And we've seen all the messages that have gone down. Even Dana was like, we will lose our promoter's license if we put that fight on for you. So I can see his frustration. And the fact that he's added with the paradigm factor where they're both under the same management, I think that's a very easy deal to make, isn't it? You just go, 2 teams ring up the same manager and go, right, we want to fight. Can we do it in January with a crowd perhaps? And can you imagine if that is in Ireland? Whether it's a 50% capacity crowd, or if when the time comes we can have the 100% back. That's going to sell out at Croke Park, the either stadium, even Free Arena if they wanted to make it a premium event perhaps. But I'm open to it now. It doesn't seem like McGregor's in the picture at the moment. Obviously, we've got to see Khabib and Gaethje play out, but there's a time frame where he can step into the boxing ring now.
Yeah, there is, but it also kind of showed me like just how far everyone in the UFC is below Conor McGregor in terms of a star. Like, I remember when this whole boom about Masvidal, everyone was going crazy, and Joe Rogan's like praising Masvidal to the hills. He's a huge star when his name, whatever the fuck, right? But it's no problem. He can fight in an empty arena. We'll have Masvidal fight in an empty arena. Israel Adesanya, the heavyweights, which is the baddest man on the planet. You know what I mean? The trilogy.
Yeah.
You do that in an empty arena, no problem. But you're not Conor McGregor because we can't let him fight because we lose so much money. That just shows where the stardom is. If you want a perfect example of it, this is the perfect example of it. It's this whole global pandemic. You take the biggest fighter and you leave him on the sidelines because your company's just going to take a loss. So now, like you said, they're under the same management. Dana's been trying to launch the Zuffa boxing. This is a perfect avenue for him to do that because his biggest cash cow, his management team also has one of the biggest boxers on planet Earth. You bring that together. I believe it's actually, I know you're talking about in Dublin and stuff. There's so many locations you could have that fight, but it looks like they're going to have it in the Middle East.
Yeah.
Like, again, he's just going to line up more pockets then. That's just going to be mental. And obviously it's scheduled for probably either the end of this year or the start of next. So hopefully
December, Jan.
Yeah, so hopefully there'll be some crowd in attendance, but again, it's just going to line up the pockets of the UFC, and then they're going to keep rolling with the super boxing thing now. But I agree with you. I didn't think he'd fight Pacquiao. Like, if anything, I thought he would. I didn't think he would box again, but I was open to the idea of him boxing again. It would have been against Paulie Malignaggi because of obviously the history that they have and the shit talk back and forth. I thought that would have been the only way he would have went, and I believe Conor could have won that fight probably easily as well. So I'm surprised that they're going the Pacquiao route, to be fair, but it looks like there's a lot of respect between the two as well. So it's good to see, and it's a fight I never wanted, but I'm gonna watch it regardless.
Definitely. I think by all accounts, Paulie Malignaggi already been defeated by Conor McGregor. We're still waiting for those clips to be given out. We were promised that Netflix were going to be making a documentary, putting the clips out there, but we're still waiting on it. 2-3 years later, it's almost saddening. But if Conor McGregor did beat
I wouldn't
him up,
hold my breath on it.
It would be interesting. I don't think if the truth is that McGregor beat him quite badly, Paulie Malignaggi won't let that be publicly put out there. But something was publicly put out there. Dana White and Conor McGregor's back and forth. Mm-hmm. Dana, he wasn't too happy when he found out about it last night. He said it was one of the dirtiest things you can do. It's talking about business in a public space. I think that's the only downside to it is the fact that it is a little bit classless at the fact that business talks have been made public. But you can see McGregor's frustration when he's not getting what he wants, I suppose. But is it more the sport child thing, perhaps?
I agree with Dana in the sense that I did find it very distasteful that McGregor leaked them pictures. Again, I said last night I like the idea of kind of seeing what conversations go on, but
not to that extent.
Yeah, we want to see them, but we're not supposed to, are we? But what I found interesting from it, right, was if you read the pictures, if you read the screenshots that McGregor leaked, he goes on about the Diego Sanchez, right, and Dana instantly shuts it down and makes a joke about it. But then straight after it, Conor still goes, "Oh, well, give me Justin. Just give me Gaethje." And then when Dana got all in his feelings about it last night, he said, it's a man code. You don't do that thing. It's dirty, like you said. But yeah, what, you want to fight Diego Sanchez? He's like, no. Clearly you can see after that he's pushing for the Gaethje fight. He's just saying, I'll fucking take it. If that's what's there, give me it. I don't care. That's how anybody with a logical viewing of it should take it. Dana obviously twisted that again last night, and then Conor responded again today saying that Dana lied about it. He lied that Conor didn't want to fight. He didn't want to take the fight in May. And then he said, he kind of called him out on the Sanchez thing. And then he said he didn't know anything about the, I was going to say Mayweather and McGregor, the McGregor-Pacquiao fight. To which Conor obviously responded again. He says, you have legal letters. So it looks like what was once a great relationship between the two is turning sour. Now, again, Dana knows how to make up with everybody, apart from fucking Tito Ortiz. But he'll fix that with Conor, but it's clear Conor's pissed off. And you're being kept on the sidelines, you're being kept isolated, as much as people get isolated now anyway because of this shit. But it is unfair, and I said this months ago, I thought they should have just took the hit and let him fight. Even at least once. Let him fight. Let him get the show on the road, so at least by the time fans are back, you're still keeping your star fighter active. You have him fresh, and you haven't gone into another fight, possibly a title fight. They just didn't want to do that. So I can understand both sides. I can understand the logic behind Dana not letting Conor fight, but I can understand Conor's reason for being pissed off. And I knew when this retirement thing came out, personally, I still don't feel it's a retirement, but I knew he was just pissed that they weren't letting him fight. And it's been brought to light now by Conor.
Yeah, obviously, it was almost like a throwing his toys out the pram, trying to get his own way. And we've seen it a lot this year. Masvidal, Jones, Henry Cejudo, they've all come out and said, right, I'm done. No, I don't need to fight anymore. Masvidal was more of the, and Jones was like, I want more money. But even then, John Jones came out and said, right, I'm retiring. I'm vacating the belt. Henry Cejudo's come out and said, right, I'm done. I'm retiring unless you give me a featherweight title shot. So you see, these top athletes are now going, you know what, I don't actually need this hassle. And it's trying to play hand. But, as you mentioned there, McGregor, I think this is interesting as well because we see McGregor on Twitter a lot and he deletes those tweets, but you can see his stance because he's kept these ones up all through the night. He's not gone, oh, I should probably delete that. He's gone, yeah, I'm doubling down on this one.
Yeah, and again, like rightly so, fight your corner. You know, like the same way Dana's doing. I love Dana White. I think he's the best promoter on the planet. You know, but he doesn't always make the correct decision. And it seems like his attitude towards Conor now is the same attitude he's kind of always had when GSP stepped down and Anderson Silva, Anderson's not really retired still, but you know the big stars that he did have. You know, when you lost Brock, all right, fine, we'll just create a new star. Ronda gone, we'll create a new star. And it seems like he's getting to that point now with Conor where he can create a new star. But I think this lockdown just proves that you still haven't had anybody eclipse him, because you're taking the hit on these fighters, on Adesanya's, your Masvidal's, your Nate Diaz. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't know. I think he's just like all in his feelings about it as well, Dana. But I think the two of them should just kiss and make up and get back to fucking fighting. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, I think we get that because obviously Dana's stance this whole year was like wait and see what the lightweight title picture plays out. And obviously that was at the start of April when he was going to get Khabib and Ferguson, and he pretty much came out and said, right, McGregor, you get the winner of those two. Obviously that fight never took place. Gaethje spoiled the plans, and now we've got the lightweight title coming up in a month's time. It'd be interesting because obviously I think you'd probably say, you know, especially if Khabib wins that, whoever wins that is next in line for McGregor. So it is more of a waiting game. But you know, as you mentioned, December last year, McGregor was adamant he wanted to fight 3 times.
Yeah, and it was perfect for that. He could have got 4 fights in this year, maybe. You know what I'm saying? Like, he fought at the very start of the year. You know, you could have gotten back in there March or April. You could have gotten, July or August, and then had him close out the year. You know what I'm saying? Like, you could have had him very active this year, and your company would have made a lot of money off it. But, well, obviously we weren't to know that this pandemic was going to happen either, but I don't know. It's just a weird one for me. I think they should have just let him fight. Like, why would you want to unsettle the biggest player that you have in your dressing room? Why do you want to do that? You know what I mean? You don't go into the Lakers and you piss off LeBron James. You know what I mean? Or Juventus with Cristiano Ronaldo. You don't do them things, you know? You always keep a star player on side. And it's just like he's not bothered doing that at this point. You know, just take the fucking hit. You'll still make a lot on pay-per-view. You'll still make a bomb on pay-per-view.
Yeah, he's still, you know, he might not make top 5, but he's still making top 10 if you're doing the right fight. You know, McGregor Sanchez probably, you know, probably still hits, you know, 750,000 pay-per-view buys just because it's McGregor alone.
It does $1 million. It will do $1 million. Like, I don't even care. Like, even him and Cowboy
did 1.6, I think.
Yeah, like he holds 7 of the top 10 gates.
That's ridiculous.
As well. You know what I'm saying? Like, fucking stupid numbers.
I think it's like 3 of the top 4 as well, other than Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Like, so, he's always going to sell. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I think it would be more appealing having McGregor fighting in this open, like, you know, space, no crowds, whatever it is. I think that just brings another appeal to a McGregor fight now. Whether it's the power that we hear of, like, so can you hear the power translate, or can you know, hear the shit talk or whatever, you know, because McGregor loves talking shit during the cage, or in the cage. So I just think it would have been an extra little appeal to it.
Could you imagine UFC 229 if that was in an empty cage? Khabib and McGregor going back and forth, then Khabib jumping out of cage.
I think I could do without that one.
Maybe. Or even him versus Nate, perhaps. You know, him versus Nate. That would be incredible. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting. I think we see McGregor Pacquiao next, which I know is going to see some MMA fans and boxing fans alike, you know, not enjoy that build-up. But, you know, I was just thinking, you know, Mayweather, McGregor, it was like a 6-week turnaround in terms of being announced for them stepping in the ring. Obviously, it was being almost teased back and forth. Obviously, at UFC 205, McGregor was like, oh, I might have to go and see what Mayweather's doing because none of these guys are testing me. And, you know, 9 months later, you're stepping inside the ring. So we know if these talks are true, I'd probably say expect an announcement in the next month.
Yeah, probably. And the thing with that was, like, they negotiated for so long with the Mayweather-McGregor thing. Mm-hmm. Then when it did get announced, the fight was like you said, I think 6 weeks later. Yeah. You know, so And a lot of Conor's team put it down to Mayweather being crafty and not giving him enough time to, fully prepare for it. He has that time now, and he has a way. Pacquiao, who's also aging, he's also declining. Like he still has the power and the technique, the accuracy, but we'll see how that translates. It'll be interesting. I just think it's fucking mental.
It's 2020 summed up in a nutshell, isn't it? We've got Logan Paul versus Mayweather, and then we've got Pacquiao versus McGregor on it. All being announced in the same year. We've got Mike Tyson, Roy Jones coming up again. So it just sums up the year, doesn't it?
What the fuck is this place? What is happening?
Yeah, the simulation's gone too far. But one thing, and one of the best things that 2020 brought out was Cage Warriors The Trilogy this weekend. Back to back. Went Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. Last night it did close out with Mason Jones becoming the welterweight champion after beating Adam Proctor quite convincingly as well in what was a vacant title match. He joins the likes of McGregor and Dan Hardy as becoming the third fighter from Cage Warriors to become a 2-weight champion. What's your thoughts at the moment as Cage Warriors as a whole? Obviously, you could probably say the number one European organisation at the moment, but obviously you mentioned yourself there, you got the Irishman Ian Gary coming through. A lot of good talent come through Cage Warriors.
Yeah, and they've always had a history of that. It's like Europe's, proving ground in order to get to the UFC. Look, we heard all bleeding year naming the fighters who've done so well in Cage Warriors that have eventually made the jump to the UFC or Bellator. But yeah, I'm very impressed with what they've done, and it was very important for European MMA to get Cage Warriors back and into the swing of things. To do these shows back to back was very impressive as well. So again, a lot of talent came out, but Ian Gary, he just stands above them all, I think. And I think there's a phone call for him in the very near future, I reckon. You look at Reece McKee, who else?
Ross Houston's making his Bellator debut next week.
You know what I mean? Ross Houston against MVP. Like a very high profile fight. A lot of bleeding casuals to having a clue who Ross Houston is, and you think it's just another can for MVP. Well, I tell you what,
in for a treat.
Yeah, they will be, because it's going to be a test for both, but it's going to be a very exciting fight that I can't wait to see. So yeah, look, there's a lot of talent coming out of Europe, and Cage Warriors is the platform to go to in order to get to the elite level. So I think they're doing a great job. I think, for any aspiring fighter in Europe, I'd look to go to Cage Warriors first before I'm making that jump, because it's a good testing ground for you, and I think they've done very well.
100%. I said a quarter earlier that I think Cage Warriors to me was the best event this week. Obviously, they went three nights in a row. The first night, had a couple of upsets. Luke Shanks became the flyweight champion. On the middle night, only there was 5 fight cards. 4 of them didn't go out the first round, and the 5th one went just beyond the second round. So it was an absolute barn burner in terms of an event, and Jack Cartwright defended his title, I think, phenomenally well. And of course, last night Mason Jones made history. So they put it back to back, and they made history as well, becoming the first event in the UK for MMA to become professionally and governmentally accepted, almost, in terms of the fact that we've got the Premier League back and things like that. So they became exempt almost from the current COVID regulations, which is huge for the sport as well.
Yeah, it is, and I wish that could start happening more over here as well. Like, the sooner we get these shows back in Dublin as well, I can't wait for that. Obviously it's a big thing for the UK, but we need that here too. Because there's a lot of fighters here. Like, when Bellator come over to Dublin, it's basically just an early show. It really is. It's the same thing with Cage Warriors, but they've done a great job. They're capitalizing on what's happening right now, and they're promoting fighters. Like, you're seeing, like we talked about Ian Gary, like Ariel Hawani there, like basically shouting them out last night, saying like, this is going to be a name that you have to remember. Well, of course, because how many performances is it now where he's just pieced people up and he still has to wait for a call? So Cage Warriors gives him that platform, and I think they've done brilliantly. Yeah,
he reminds me of the Wonder Boy and the style benders in terms of the stature. He's very tall for his division. He's someone who picks his shots. He's someone he's still flat-footed, but his distance management is phenomenal. I think he's going to grow into the likes of the Wonder Boys and the style benders and the MVPs, of course. I think
Go
he's
back
done
and
that
watch.
projection.
Go back and watch Conor McGregor versus Ivan Bushinger in Cage Warriors. It looked very much like that. You know, just the way he was kind of just catching it. Like every time he threw, he was landing. It looked very similar to that I thought last night. So that's one for you to watch, and you'll see the similarities in between that as well. But I see your point where the comparisons. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be the poster boy for Irish MMA in about 3-4 years time when he makes it onto that huge scene. He's probably a couple. I'd say it's 2 or 3 fights. We'll probably see him in the UFC probably going into 2022. I'd imagine. I reckon he's got a couple fights left at Cage Warriors, but I'd say that Mason Jones is going to be getting a call up very soon if he's not had one last night. Jack Cartwright in the bantamweight division is probably going to get a call up, and maybe Luke Shanks as well. You know, there's going to be a couple guys that fought this weekend who we're going to be seeing on the big stage. Of course, Corey McKenna from Cage Warriors is making their UFC debut in November after going on Contender Series and being successful there. So we see the pathway, and you know, as you mentioned, the fact of being on the eyes that it brings and the route to the UFC, because obviously it's on UFC Fight Pass.
Yeah.
So they're able to build eyes, build a profile that is global as well, because obviously UFC Fight Pass being a global network, you know, you're going to be having people from all regions tuning in and watching these European athletes and talents grow. And when they get into the UFC, they've already got their backstory sorted almost.
Yeah, they do. Like, and that's the good thing about them. Like, I remember the story they done on Conor when he fought for the lightweight title. Who did he fight? He fought. I can't remember who he fought. He fought Dave Hill, but I don't know what division that was for. I'm gonna say featherweight, but when he fought Bushinger, the story they done on him, and he done like a little MTV doc as well with him in the lead up to that fight, which then ultimately he got the call from the UFC. You know, like I just think it's a phenomenal platform, and I think they're gonna keep doing well. I remember there was a time when Bama were kind of coming on the scene, and you know they were getting some fighters in there, like Reese McKay as well, also fought under there. You know, Dylan Chuk and stuff, like fighters over here. You know, that was like another little platform, but then Cage Warriors came back swinging, and again, it's the number one stomping ground in Europe for, you know, that next step. You know, it's like, remember Invicta, you know, when the UFC finally decided to let women into the organization, you had Invicta to go pick from. Yeah, Cage Warriors is the exact same. You know, that they showed it in the countdown series for Costa and Adesanya. What was the name of that Brazilian promotion that Costa fought in?
Yes, and
you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Verdum, a lot of them kind of came from there as well. You always have a little promotion here and there to pick from, and Cage Warriors is the premier one in Europe for that.
Definitely, and I'm buzzing. They announced not the dates, but at the end of November they're going to be doing the Trilogy Tuesday. We're going to be expecting another back-to-back night, and hopefully it's on the weekend of my birthday. Hopefully on the 20th of November, it'd be wonderful to see that. It is, and hopefully maybe with regulations they might be able to do half capacity or whatnot. But at the moment, it's just nice to have European MMA back, especially that it's irritating because those 3 cards were half an hour away from where I live.
Yeah.
It's almost as much as it is as I was excited to watch it. I was like, I could literally walk, half an hour, 45 minutes and see them in person. And the BSC Arena would have been rocking last night. But I think that's a good place to wrap it. Also, I've got to mention Bellator Milan coming back out. Fabian Edwards unfortunately did get lost on his record, his first on his professional record. But it's nice to see European MMA back as a whole. Bellator, is breaking records and making history in terms of being the first one in Paris.
Yeah.
But I think we've had a very busy week, haven't we? It'd be nice to, I say, tone it down a little bit. We'll be back next week with Bellator Milan again, and of course the UFC, still at Fight Island for the next month. So
we have Tony Ferguson and Khabib 2.0, James Gallagher and Cal Illinois coming up.
Pray to the MMA gods. Make those prayers this week that nothing, that card has fallen through 4 times, I believe, within the past 12
3 or 4 times, yeah.
It's brutal, but yeah, make sure to make your prayers to the MMA gods. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well. We're on the road to 10k. Make sure to drop this video a like. Of course, follow Jay on Twitter at jthrower_1. There could be some positive tweets this week if Jadon Sancho comes into United. We never know. Yeah, again, pray for Jadon Sancho. But yes, we will see you guys on the next video.
Come on, Jadon.